Hi, everybody. My name is Terry, and I am with Gateway to Counseling. I am going to be providing some information and education today on the topic of grief. Um, First of all, I am a licensed professional counselor with over 25 years of experience, and I wanted to talk about this topic of grief. Everybody pretty much knows what grief is. It's this sadness, this intense pain that we have when we have lost someone or lost something. It's this overwhelming sense that we're alone and we can't go forward and we're just brokenhearted and we're down. Grief can come from any number of things. It can come from losing a loved one to death. It can come from a loved one moving away. Maybe there's been a broken relationship. Maybe there's been a divorce. Maybe you even initiated the divorce and still you feel this intense amount of grief. Maybe your children have left home and they've gone off to college and it's your first time to be empty nesters, and there's just this grief that you feel. And grief is common. Everyone goes through grief. Everyone experiences grief. Maybe it's because you've had to move from your family and your friends and everything that you've known. And it's a joyous occasion because, maybe you're going on to your first real career job and you're very excited about that, but it means you have to move away from everything that you've ever known. So there can be this sense of loneliness and what am I going to do? The most extreme senses of grief is when we've actually lost someone to death. Typically when we lose a relationship or we have to move away, we know that we can still have contact with those individuals. If you've gotten a divorce and you've wanted the divorce, or maybe you didn't want the divorce, you have a little sense deep back inside of you that says that there's still some hope that you will have another relationship in the future. But when there's the grief of losing someone to death, that is an extreme, because typically people feel like death is an ending to all. There's life and there's death. There's taxes and there's death, right? So when you experience the death of a mother or a father or a child, a best friend, your spouse, you don't think you can go on. And there's this hopelessness. I'm going to be talking today, and actually I'm going to read a little bit later on about this idea of letting go. This is, hope you can see this, by Dr. Hawkins. He is just absolutely phenomenal when it comes to helping individuals to overcome negative feelings. So why do we experience this grief? We know the situations that bring grief on, but why do we experience this intense pain? Well, first of all, we were created to connect with one another. We were created to commune with each other and to have attachments. But sometimes we form attachments that might not be very healthy. Sometimes, for example, I'm thinking of someone right now that came in for counseling services. Her husband passed away, and that was her life. That was her everything. Everywhere she went, everything she did was with her spouse, with her husband. They were married for over 25 years. And he took care of everything. He took care of the bills. He took care of the house. She was a stay-at-home mom. He worked. And he was everything. And that's wonderful. It's absolutely fantastic to have that kind of relationship. But what it means when he passed away was that she didn't know how to survive without him. She did not know how to do things for herself. She didn't even realize how much the light bill ran in the house. She didn't know how far her money would actually go per month, per year, to pay the bills and her living expenses. So the death of her husband wasn't just about him leaving her, it was about her not knowing how to take care of herself. There had become more than just this attachment, but instead a dependency. And some people might say, well, we're supposed to be dependent on our spouses. I don't think we're supposed to be dependent on anyone. I think we're supposed to be interdependent, where I'm an individual and you're an individual, and together you have 100% and I have 100%, and together we come together and we're two complete wholes coming together. Not you're 50 and I'm 50, or you're 75 and I'm 25, and we come together and we form 100%. Because we're not whole. And so, unfortunately for this particular lady, it was very, very difficult to grieve and to get through the grieving process. They say that there's all of these different stages of the grieving process. They say that you go through denial, and then you go through anger, and then you move finally to a stage of acceptance, and then you're able to get over it and get into peace. So there's different stages of grief, and people have different numbers of stages. Some people say there's 5, some people say there's 7. It doesn't really matter. What when you're in grief, right? And you know that you feel this pain. You know that, initially when that pain occurs, you want to deny that it's real. You want to deny that it's happened. And then you become really enraged that it did happen. And believe it or not, you might have felt this, but even when a person has passed away and died, let's use, for example, cancer. So a person has passed away, they had cancer, they were in a lot of pain when they were here, they were in a lot of suffering when they were here. You know how cancer can be. And they weren't really living when they were here, but you wanted to hold on. You wanted to hold on to that person because you love them so much. You don't want them to leave you. And that's the key. You don't want them to leave you here. Did you hear what I said? So, and you might want to repeat that. Go back and reverse that and come back forward again. But it's this feeling of being left to live and to survive and to go on our own and not have that person there anymore. And that's very difficult because we depended on that person for so many things. We depended on that person for our happiness, for our living, for taking care of chores around the house, paying the bills, cooking our meals, going grocery shopping, all those things that we were dependent on that person for. And so sometimes even when that loved one is stricken with cancer and they're suffering so much, we still want them to live. And people will get down on their knees and they will go to church and they will pray, and they're praying for them. They're praying for their needs and not always thinking about what might be best for that other individual. Sometimes I've seen this where a person is on their deathbed and the family members are all there and they're crying and they're praying and they're asking God for a miracle. And miracles happen. We absolutely know miracles happen, regardless of what type of divinity you believe in. Miracles do happen. But sometimes it's not for the miracle to happen. And I've seen where everyone leaves the room and there becomes peace in that room. And that person who is in that hospital bed can finally say goodbye and leave the body. And that's a whole different way of thinking about grief, isn't it? Because I believe that sometimes people choose to leave. Because I believe that we have a body. This is my physical body. But this body is not going to survive everything that's going on in this world. And it is going to become old. And it's like a house. It's like a car. Over the years, you can fix and repair and make better and, put in a new hip, get a new knee, and make it better again. But at some point in time, it's gonna die. And guys, I'm sorry to say that, but it is the truth. But the wonderful news is that the body dies, not the spirit. Not the spirit. And I've known people to experience the body dying of their loved one, but the spirit still living and still being there. So we grieve because we're attached, and we're supposed to be attached. But sometimes we're grieving because we're also dependent on that other person. So how do we get through grief? First of all, you allow it. If you're crying, then you're crying. If you're grieving, then you're grieving. Sometimes it might be appropriate to grieve at home compared to at work. Let's say, for example, that you've gone through a divorce. Well, you got to pick yourself up, right? You got to go to work and you got to earn a living for you and your kids, right? So you do that. And then maybe when you're driving home from work and you're frustrated because it's been a hard day and you're stuck in traffic and you got to hurry up and get home and cook dinner and help the kids with homework, and you're a single parent now and you're going to cry. You just are. You are going to cry because you're going to miss that other person being there. You're going to miss that shoulder to cry on. You're going to miss that hug when you walk through the door. You're going to miss someone loving you and telling you that everything is okay. You're going to miss all of that. And that's just the reality. And so cry. Just cry. Just cry as much as you want to. When you are in the shower and you've had a long day and you're grieving over missing someone, cry. Just go ahead and cry. The good news is that when you allow yourself to grieve, it usually passes within 20 minutes. That's the beauty of it. In 20 minutes, you'll feel better. And I'm not saying that you're going to cry again later that night. You might. You might cry in the shower at, 7:30, and you might cry again at 9:30. It's okay. You cry as much as you need to cry and get it out, because you're cleansing yourself. You're washing it away, and you're allowing it to happen. It's not always necessary to pick up the phone and call your friends, because they might be grieving too. Especially when it's about a death of a loved one. Sometimes you want to pick up the phone and you want to reminisce, and that's fine too. As long as you both are in that good, acceptable place. And of course, we're always here for you at Gateway to Counseling. We're always just a screen away, where if you need to just get through that little tough moment, then we're here to help you through that. But once you allow yourself to feel grief, it cleanses you. It allows you to start the healing process. And then you start realizing that you can do this. Because guess what? You can do this. You can pay your own bills. You can make the ends meet. You can be super mom and super dad too. You can be on your own without your spouse who is in heaven. And I'm going to say this to you. If your spouse has died and has gone off to a different place in this world, I believe that if you really need something, they'll come back and help you out. Because I've seen it happen. I've heard too many stories of people say, I didn't know what to do, and I could swear, or I've watched so many. I love sports. I love football especially. And you see where someone has experienced a death of a father, and they just go out on the football field and they are just on fire. And they're like, I don't know how I had such a great game. I've never had a game like that in my life. And of course, after the game, they're crying because they've had this awesome game and their dad was not physically there. But they know their dad was there every step of the way to help them through. So, again, the body can die, the spirit can live. But when you're going through grief, we get to this place of allowing ourselves to grieve, and then we can move through the rage and move forward to actual acceptance. Acceptance that this is where you are in life and this is where you're meant to be. Now, that might be a little difficult for some people to hear, because you might be thinking that I'm being insensitive, that I'm not showing some compassion, that you are just really in great pain. But I've been there. Who hasn't been there? We've all been there. We've all lost someone through various means, whether it's our choosing or not. And I'm here to tell you that there's always a brighter tomorrow. I truly believe that. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be coming to you today. I would not be here with Gateway to Counseling if I did not believe that. So I do. I want to read you a little something here from, and again, this is Letting Go, and this is by Dr. Hawkins. So, and it says, it talks about loving. It talks about preventing grief through this concept of not always looking to get love, but always looking to give love. And that's my mission, right? So and it says, where am I looking to get love rather than to give it? The more loving we are, the less vulnerable we are to grief and loss. The less we need to seek attachments. I try to focus on being a loving individual and giving love to others. And I believe in karma. And I can honestly tell you that when you focus on giving love, it's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing, the love that comes to you. So maybe you've experienced death. Yes. And your loved one is gone. Yes. But I promise you that if you focus on giving love to others, boy, you will feel just this enormous amount of love coming back to you. Yes, you've gone through a divorce and you feel like no one out there loves you. No one's ever going to love you the way your spouse loved you. I'm here to correct you on that. And I'm not even saying you got to be married. I'm not even saying you got to be in a relationship with a person of the same sex or opposite sex. You don't have to be in that intimate relationship. I am telling you that when you practice giving love, you receive so much love. And then you are able to prevent this grief. Because when we grieve, we are grieving the loss of love. And that's my final point. We have not lost love. We are surrounded by love. And so when you are able to comprehend and wrap your brains around that, then you can overcome grief. No matter what kind of grief you've experienced. Practice giving love. So, on that note, my name is Terry, and I am with Gateway to Counseling. We want you to enter into our gates to a brighter tomorrow where you are in control. If you need help, please give us a call. And again, I am going to recommend this book right here. It's awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.